Most success advice tells you what to add to your life. New habits, new routines, new skills. But what if the fastest path to success isn't about adding anything at all? What if it's about what you're finally willing to let go of? Today, I'm walking you through 10 things you have to give up to actually succeed, and 10 real stories that prove it. Let's begin. Give up the habit of waiting. In 1985, a broke, unemployed actor wrote himself a personal check for $10 million, dated it for 5 years in the future, and carried it in his wallet as a daily reminder of exactly what he was working toward. He wasn't waiting for someone to hand him an opportunity. By 1994, Jim Carrey was earning that amount and more per film. The check didn't create the money. The decision to stop waiting for someday and start acting like today mattered, that's what did. 2. Give up the excuses. Wilma Rudolph contracted polio as a small child, and doctors told her family she would likely never walk normally, let alone run. She wore a leg brace for years. By the age of 20, she had become the first American woman to win 3 gold medals in a single Olympic Games. She had every excuse available to her, handed to her by doctors themselves. She used none of them. 3. Give up trying to be perfect. In Japan, there's a centuries-old aesthetic philosophy called wabi-sabi, finding beauty specifically in things that are imperfect, weathered, and incomplete. A handmade ceramic bowl with a slightly uneven rim isn't considered a failed attempt at symmetry. It's considered more beautiful precisely because it shows the human hand that made it. Perfection was never actually the goal worth chasing. Authenticity was. It's just harder to notice when you're busy hiding the parts of yourself that make you real. 4. Give up doing things you know are wrong. Frank Serpico was a New York City police officer in the late 1960s who discovered widespread corruption and bribery within his own department. Rather than accept the payoffs that most of his colleagues quietly took, he reported it at enormous personal risk, eventually being shot during a drug arrest under circumstances he always believed were no accident. His testimony helped trigger a major investigation and reform of the entire department. He said afterward that he simply couldn't live with himself doing something he knew in his heart was wrong. 5. Give up feelings of entitlement. In ancient Rome, when a victorious general paraded through the city in triumph, cheered by thousands, tradition placed a slave directly behind him in the chariot with one specific job: to whisper repeatedly into his ear, "Remember, you are mortal." Even at the absolute peak of glory, the reminder was constant. None of this was owed to you forever. Gratitude and entitlement cannot occupy the same chariot. The moment you start believing success is owed to you is usually the moment you stop working to actually earn the next bit of it. 6. Give up relationships that want you to be someone else. In the children's classic, The Velveteen Rabbit, an old toy horse explains to a new stuffed rabbit that a toy doesn't become real through magic. It becomes real by being loved exactly as it is, worn patches and all, without ever needing to change into something shinier or different. That's the entire test for the relationships in your life. The right ones don't require a new version of you. They love the one who's already there. 7. Give up letting others decide what you can and can't do. By the time Ludwig van Beethoven composed his 9th Symphony, widely considered one of the greatest musical works ever written, he had gone almost completely deaf. Critics and even close friends doubted a composer who could no longer hear music could still create it at that level. At its premiere, he reportedly had to be turned around by another performer to see the audience's standing ovation because he genuinely could not hear it. Other people's certainty about your limits is often just a description of their own imagination, not yours. 8. Give up being a helpless victim. Luis Zamperini was an Olympic runner whose plane crashed into the Pacific Ocean during the Second World War. He survived 47 days adrift on a life raft, then endured over 2 years in brutal prisoner of war camps. He came home deeply broken and eventually chose, piece by piece, to rebuild his life, rather than remain defined by what had been done to him. What happened to him was undeniably unfair. What he did with it afterward was entirely his own choice. 9. Give up worrying about past failures. Roland Hussey Macy failed at 7 different retail ventures before finally opening the store that would grow into one of the largest department store chains in the world. Each previous failure could easily have convinced him retail simply wasn't for him. Your past attempts were never a verdict on your future ones. They were just previous drafts. 10. Give up blaming everyone else. While serving time in prison in his early 20s, Malcolm X spent hours in the library copying an entire dictionary by hand, page by page, simply to expand his own vocabulary and understanding of the world. He later credited that self-directed education, taken on entirely by his own choice inside a system that had every reason to be blamed, as the true beginning of his transformation. Blame explains how you got somewhere. It has never once been the thing that gets you somewhere else. Here's the surprising part. Not one of these 10 people succeeded by adding some secret extra ingredient to their life. Carrey didn't need more money to write that check. Rudolph didn't need a stronger leg. Beethoven didn't need better hearing. Every single one of them succeeded by letting go of the exact thing that was supposed to stop them. You already have everything you need to start. The only real question left is what you're finally ready to give up. If this reached you at the right moment, you already know which one it is. I'll see you in the next one.